Hello friends, so today's video is going to be an announcement and a couple of updates. I'll have timestamps in the description bar down below and in a pinned comment in case you'd like to skip ahead if there's one specific topic you're more interested in than the others. But the three things that I'll be going over would be a new channel that I'm starting, a little bit of a book writing update, and then some information about the Cosmere Readalong that I'm doing in 2023. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it and kick things off with the new channel. So this new channel will be my third channel. This is my main channel, my number one channel, I guess you could say, the first one that I started out with. And then I have an additional channel called Worldhoppers, which is completely collaborative. Sometimes I'm not actually even in the videos because the whole idea is to get people together, to get other booktubers together, bookworms, and have conversations about books, have these long, in-depth discussions. Sometimes these discussions are lighthearted and fun, and sometimes they speak to things that are a little bit more serious. But it's a way for us to kind of come together as a community and share our thoughts and also share our interests in different genres because I, for example, primarily read fantasy. And so every now and then it's really fun to get to hear from people who are more into other genres or people who read a variety of genres. So regardless, Worldhoppers is my second channel and all of the AdSense revenue and merch sales go to charity. It's something that I love doing. I'm so happy and grateful that so many other booktubers participate in this. So that is my second channel. This third channel is going to be a hybrid of solo content like what I do here and collaborative content. So it's going to be a mix of those things as well as being a mix of my other interests. So both those first two channels I mentioned are primarily focused on books. This new channel is going to be a mix of video games, manga, comics, anime, and adaptations. So it's going to be basically just whatever I'm in the mood to talk about. I think that the manga and comics will probably be more regular than the video game content. Some of the video game content is going to be things like what I do here, where I do anticipated releases. I might talk about some video games I'm excited about, something like that. Maybe eventually get into doing playthroughs of things or first impressions, but the video game aspect of it, while it will be there at the moment, is not going to be as prevalent as the manga, anime, comics, and adaptations. I already have a few videos that have been recorded and are ready to go. I'm really excited. So my husband will also be joining a fair amount on that channel. I know a lot of you really enjoy when Sean pops on. But we'll have Sean here and there, and then also the first couple of videos, you're going to be seeing my friend Patrick. But similar to Worldhoppers, the idea is that in those collaborative videos, I'm bringing different people on, having conversations with them, getting their thoughts on things. And then there will be, like I said, a mix where I occasionally am doing things just by myself. I will also probably occasionally do videos with some of my friends that I know in real life that aren't here online, but we play video games together, and so we just figure we'll kind of bring you along into the conversation whenever we're chatting about something. So I'm really excited for this. It is not going to take the place of any of what I do on my main channel. So within this next year of 2023 here on my main channel, I plan to still put up 3 to 4 videos a week. I was for a while doing more than that, but I really want to prioritize writing, which I'll get into here in a little bit. So you'll see 3 to 4 videos pretty consistently here on this channel, maybe every now and then a bonus one. Worldhoppers will continue to have 1 video a week because Worldhoppers is solely collaborative, which sounds like a little bit of a oxymoron, but because it is entirely collaborative, that means that it can be kind of difficult to plan around everybody's schedules and get everything worked out. So 1 video a week tends to work really well. I never want anybody to feel bombarded because it is entirely this extra thing. So that will have 1 video per week. Those generally always go up on Wednesdays because I like alliteration, so I like having Worldhoppers Wednesdays. Hopefully on this channel, I will have videos up if you start the week on Sunday and you end on Saturday, if you think of it that way, every other day. So Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And occasionally there might be a day that I miss if I'm doing 3 videos instead of 4. And then for this new channel, hopefully we have Mondays and Fridays. Maybe every now and then there will be an additional video. And if there is, those will probably also go up on Wednesdays. But the idea is that through these 3 different channels. There's something for everybody on every single day. For those of you that were keeping up with my Full Metal read-along, I am going to continue doing Full Metal videos over on this channel. I'm going to kind of move things over there. And then I already have done a video with Patrick and Sean for the first arc of Vagabond, as well as the first 5 volumes of Witch Hat Atelier. And I had so much fun in those conversations, so I'm really excited to have those, but you will be getting a mix of things. I'll also incorporate some videos that are somewhat like what I already do here. So for example, around the end of a month or the beginning of the following month, I'll do things like wrap-ups and talk about the manga and the comics that I've read. That doesn't mean that I won't still mention some of those things here. It's just that that is a dedicated area for these other interests that I have. I'm really excited. I now get to tell you what the name of it is because I realize I haven't even said it. But the name is a very obvious pun. The name is Full Meta Analysis. So the definition of meta-analysis, because it's a real thing, is an examination of data from a number of independent studies of the same subject in order to determine overall trends. So the idea, because it's a hybrid of collaborative and solo, is that I'm taking all these different perspectives and bringing it into one place. Of course, primarily, I just liked the pun on Full Metal Alchemist. Switching now into a little bit of a writing update. So if you don't know, I have written a book. It is called Peace and Turmoil. It is the first book in an epic political fantasy series. I purposefully do not really talk about it all that much on my channel for a number of reasons. I want my channel to be about other writers' works. And I also have this, I know this is kind of silly because part of self-publishing is the ability to market yourself, but 1, I hate marketing myself, and 2, it just feels like cheating. I don't know what it is. I hate the idea of using my channel to talk about my book. I also don't want to push it on people. If you're interested in it, you can give it a go, and if you're not, I don't want to bombard you by talking about it all the time. And I also just find, I know, I am aware, I have seen the kinds of conversations that people have about booktuber books, about, oh, all these booktubers who think they're writers and things like that. I have always loved stories. I've always wanted to write stories. When I was a kid, I would draw characters that I had in my head that I just not yet written down their stories, but I would try to draw them just to get that out in some way. And then eventually we had a home computer and I would like write stories out, and then if family members came home, I would like save the file and then just pretend to be playing Free Cell or something, because I've just always enjoyed stories and I've always wanted to eventually make writing my career, but I don't want to ever feel like if anything were to do really, really well, I never want to have that question mark of wondering if the only reason something did well is because I have a channel. So, couple things. I am working on book 2 of that series. The book came out in 2019. I had every intention of consistently working on and trying to get book 2 out as soon as possible because I didn't want to be making people wait a really long time, especially because if you've read the first book, you know it kind of ends with like there's more to the story, obviously. So I wanted to make sure that writing was a priority, but my father came first, and so I wanted to be there for him. I think a lot of you know I quit my teaching job, and I pretty much rarely posted during that time here on YouTube, and writing just absolutely was not happening at all in 2020. He did obviously pass away, and then I kept thinking that I was ready to jump back into things. I kept thinking the longer time passed, the more I felt like I was supposed to be ready to jump back into things, and I would try, and I didn't have it in me, especially because with it being an epic fantasy series and it's a high stakes series and there's a lot of characters and things like that, there are some deaths that occur in book 1 that I wanted in book 2 to make sure that I really had characters working through the grieving process. And you can imagine, having literally been in that place myself, that it was kind of like scratching at a scab. It was like not letting myself heal because I kept trying to go to do I would try to write, and then it was like I kept putting myself in this mindset and instead of letting myself kind of get through my own emotions. So I eventually got to a point where I just thought, I can't do this right now. And I kept thinking though that, okay, I'll just give myself some time. And then once I've given myself some time, then I can get back to it. So I don't really need to like update people. I don't really need to talk about this because I'm sure this will be over soon. And I know it's stupid. And if you've never lost a loved one, it's different from person to person. So I don't want to try to act like there is this one way to grieve or there's this one way to feel. But it is so life altering. Like life as you knew it that life is gone because that person was so much a part of your life. So you're mourning them and you're mourning the life that you kind of thought you were having. And so anyway, it kind of just flips everything upside down, especially given the time in which all of that happened and the fact that we had moved in to help my dad. And, I had stopped teaching, and so my job was different. And anyway, so there were so many changes, and I just kept thinking I was ready, and I kept not being ready. And the longer it went, the worse I felt that I wasn't letting people in and wasn't letting people know. But I also felt like it was stupid. I kept thinking like, this is dumb. And I also was, I don't know, I know that so many of you are so, so nice. So it's not necessarily you that I think would do this. But I know there have been a couple times that people have left comments about about that. I don't even want to get into it, but there have been a couple of clearly people looking to prey on someone who is grieving. And I was like, I don't want to deal with that right now. So I was already trying to, sorry, I'm sweating. I feel like I have a sweat mustache. I get nervous when I talk about my feelings. So anywho, so I just thought, I don't want to deal with that. So I'm just going to kind of keep this to myself. But I also feel like it was not fair for those of you who have read the book, for those of you who have been wanting to find out what happens next, for those of you who have wanted updates. I do feel like it was unfair to not give you some kind of idea of where I was with the writing process. So all that to say, I can happily say that I am working on book 2. I just did in November NaNo, which if you don't know what that stands for, NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month, and the goal is to write 50,000 words in 1 month. I did do that, and so I got a pretty good chunk of the book done. It will likely still be quite a while. I don't want to make any promises that I can't keep. I feel like I have tried to say, here's when things should be happening, and then I just don't want to keep doing that and not being able to fulfill those promises. So it will get done when it gets done, and I might be more open with updating on my Patreon. I might maybe start doing a newsletter again because I used to have a newsletter. So I might do that, but I likely won't be updating all that regularly here on my channel unless I have something really big to say, like news on an audiobook for book 1 or a cover for the second book or things like that. So if you do want more updates more regularly, like I said, I might start doing a newsletter again, and if I do, I'll let you know that over on my community tab in my Patreon. But Patreon is probably the best place to be getting regular updates. Now on to the Cosmere Readalong. So I do plan to read through essentially everything in the Cosmere in 2023 and make videos and have discussion videos about all those, with the exception of Mistborn Era 1 and Era 2. And the reason for that is because the release of the Lost Metal just happened in November, myself and a lot of other individuals were making videos about Mistborn. We're rereading Mistborn leading up to that release. And so not only is there a lot of content around Mistborn right now, but there's a lot of really recent content. So I don't know that I need to then add on top of that. I will have a playlist specifically for Mistborn though, and I will have maybe a couple of videos that are about Mistborn that pop up, but I'll get into that when I go through the projected schedule for when I'm hoping to read books, as well as when I'm hoping to have the discussions for them. So we'll get to that in just a second, but I am going to try and compile a bunch of videos I've done specifically for Mistborn, as well as other videos that maybe like my friend Angela did a read-along for Era 2 and had some live shows, so I might include things like that, so that there is that reference for those of you who maybe haven't read Mistborn and you just are getting into Sanderson, and you're like, well, I mean, I missed all the hype. I wasn't able to be present during the hype train, and so you'll have a place where you can have that. That said, I want to go through the projected schedule for when I am planning on picking up each of the Cosmere works versus when there will likely be a live show discussion for them, because I want to make sure that if I'm reading a book in a certain month, that everybody has time to complete it before the discussion happens. The only real exception to that will be with the secret projects. I will likely do non-spoiler reviews for those pretty quickly, but the live shows, similar to what I just said about the other books, will take place a little bit later, maybe the end of the month, the beginning of the next month, after the month in which the book actually was released, because I want to make sure people actually have time to read it before a discussion takes place. But regardless, here is the projected date, the projected schedule for each of the books. So in January, the books that I am planning to pick up would be the first of the secret projects, as well as I'm starting Way of Kings, not completing, but just starting it in January. And then there likely won't be a live show in January. If there is, it will be for the secret project, and it will be at the end of the month, but it might also take place at the beginning of February, just depending on people's schedules. In February, I'm continuing to read Way of Kings, and like I said, the secret project might have its live show that month. March, I plan to be done with Way of Kings, so the next book that I'm wanting to pick up would be Words of Radiance, and then there will hopefully be a live show for Way of Kings in March. In April, we have Secret Project 2 and continuing to read through Words of Radiance, and then I want to have a live show for a discussion about Mistborn Era 1 versus Mistborn Era 2, so there will be a little bit of a Mistborn discussion there. In May, I want to read things involving Elantris, which would be the book Elantris itself, Emperor's Soul, and the Hope of Elantris. And then the live show, there's hopefully going to be 2 in May, which would be for the second secret project or for Words of Radiance, or Words of Radiance. In June, we are starting Oathbringer, and then the live show for the Elantris books will take place that month. In July, we have the third of the secret projects, as well as continuing on with Oathbringer, and probably no live show that month. Moving on to August, we have Rhythm of War and Warbreaker. Just starting Rhythm of War, though, not finishing it yet. The live show that time will be for Secret Project 3 and for Oathbringer. In September, we have Rhythm of War and White Sand, so we're continuing with Rhythm of War. Then we will have a live show for Warbreaker. In October, we have Secret Project 4 with a live show for Rhythm of War. In November, there will likely be a catch-up period, so no books planned to actually read that month, but we'll have a live show for Secret Project 4 and potential Stormlight Archive thoughts and predictions, because we will be done with those first 4 books. And then in December, again, no actual books being picked up, and a live show for all of the secret projects, and then a potential live show for, just in general, the Cosmere. I said this just a second ago, but I want to reiterate that every now and then, especially for things like the secret projects, the live shows will either take place in the month that I specified or at the very end of the month before, which would be the month that they come out. So for example, in January, we get the first of the secret projects, so the live show might take place at the very end of January or at the very beginning of February. But you have a rough idea of when the plan is for each of the books to be picked up, completed, and then discussed. For the live shows, a couple of things to note. A lot of my friends are fans of Sanderson, so I will likely have different people for different live shows. Some of my friends like certain Cosmere books more than others, so I want to try and allow for as many people to participate in these as possible. And then on top of that, there is a little thing to participating in the live show versus watching it after. So the actual it being live, I've stated before, and I still feel the same, that I have a lot of anxiety when it comes to doing live shows. I don't mind doing things with patrons. I don't mind when it feels like maybe there's not that many eyes watching, but with something like the secret projects, where I feel like a lot of people are going to be really excited to discuss, it just makes me nervous. And on top of that, the couple times I've done live shows, I've always enjoyed being on my friends' live shows because I'm not the host, and I just kind of can relax and chat. But when I'm the host, I just feel this obligation to make sure everybody's very, very comfortable. And there was one instance where myself and one of my friends, we were doing a live show, and she is a lady, and somebody was starting to make sexual comments about us in the chat. And I know that's probably not a big deal to a lot of people, but in the moment when you're trying to engage with your friend, when you're trying to pay attention to what they're saying, and then you like look over to the side and you just see these inappropriate comments, I just don't want to risk that happening. And I also don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable and feel like they are going to shut down because they just saw something and it really actually hurt their feelings. Some people, they've been really fortunate, they haven't had a lot of that, or maybe they have and they're tired of it and now they see it again and they feel like they can't go anywhere without seeing something like that. So I just want to ensure that everybody's as comfortable as possible and that we are all there to chat about those books and we can have a fun discussion about those books. So to try and minimize the risk of things like that happening, what I'm going to do is have the live shows themselves be live for Patreon. And if you don't know, on my Patreon, every tier has access to the exact same perks, and the bottom tier is just $1. So I am not trying to break the bank for anybody. I know how tight money can be. And so I don't want you to feel like you have to spend a ton of money. I'm not making this like a $10 tier perk or something like that. It's just a way to kind of have a filter so that the conversations can be as to the point and on topic as possible, and everybody can be as comfortable as possible. So those will be on Patreon, accessible to anybody no matter what tier you decide to join in on. And then they will go up shortly after here on my channel. So you will still get to watch them even if you're not a patron. It's just that chat function. It's just the literally watching it live. That'll be on Patreon. I think that about covers everything that I wanted to get through. I'm sure when I'm editing this, I will realize I completely forgot something important, but I will have all relevant information or anything that you might want to refer back to in the description bar down below. So that way you can take screenshots, or you can just come back and look at the description bar. I'll have it in a pinned comment, all of that. So it's easy to reference back to. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.